Hey guys, this is Kermitly coming at you with another animation tutorial in After Effects. Now we're going to be doing a little 2D animation here, and I'll give you a look at what that looks like. Alright, that's a pretty cool effect right there. Nucleus spins into existence, and we've got electrons circling this. Now let's dive right into this. I want to show you guys how I did this. This is something that the client wanted me to do. They're having me create all these icon animations within this icon circle here for their website. So let's take a look at how I did this. First thing I want to look at is the wipe layer. This is the very first thing that I did. I knew right away that, let's take a look here. This guy right here, I knew I was going to want to have a wipe effect on this. So what I did is I created a fresh layer here. I created a white circle with a shape layer, and all I did was I added a radial effect. Pretty straightforward. Boom. I also gave it a 40%, or not percent, but a 40 feather, because as this thing wipes into existence, I wanted there to be a feather effect right there. Now, one issue that I want to talk about that I ran into right away was the first thing I did was I took this and I resized the thing into the shape that I would need, because I want this radial effect to go right around where this guy is. Now the problem with resizing it like this is, look at how this radial effect happens. It speeds through the narrow ends, and I wanted this thing to wipe at a constant speed routinely. So instead of resizing it here, I just took that entire layer and I created a new layer. There we go. So if I change the color of this guy right here, whoops, let's see, to red, sure. Now you can see what I did. I basically took this entire composition here, brought it into this new composition of a white path, and I resized it and moved it so that it was just covering this this guy right here, this ring. Once I had that, you can see right away it wipes uniformly. Very nice. Constant speed all the way around. That's exactly what I want for this effect. Now one thing you might notice is, what is this little square doing here? Well, I'll talk about that in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back to white. White background is what we want. And I used white for this radial effect is because I wanted this thing to look like it's wiping into existence, and we know we're going to have a white background in this project. So once I had this thing resized over this, it's really straightforward. In fact, I didn't have to do anything else. There's our wipe effect. Now the one thing that I did add, that I mentioned a second ago, is this little square here. Now if we take this out, this looks kind of weird here. I didn't like how that looked as the rest of this was radial wiping it in. I didn't like that it looked faded there, so I went ahead and just put a little box there. Boop. Nice and clean cut. So now that we have this white path layer, we can move on to the next step. Now right now, this is our main layer. Right now we're just focusing on creating the effect on each of these electron paths. So then we'll talk about the core, and then we will also talk about how I added this animation for each of these electrons. So let's take a look at, we just got done with the white path. I took the white path and created a reveal animation layer, or that's what I named it. Really all I did here was I took our layer, or our composition I mean, for the white path. I rotated it twice, or two duplicates of it, at 60 and 120 degrees so that they were rotated equally around, and I offset them by, what, 3 frames? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Very good. Just offset enough so that they come in one at a time, and it gives us a nice looking effect there. Pretty straightforward stuff here. So to recap, I created a wipe effect. I resized it to cover this guy, to reveal it, and then I took that layer, created a reveal animation layer, here we go, rotated it. Now one thing that I just remembered that I did that is a really neat little tool that I use all the time is, let's see, let's delete this guy. Whoa, not what I want, right? Now this could have been easily fixed at this point. Right now what's happening is I have this guy rotated, so the white background within this layer is covering the other reveal animations that I want to be shown. So I was very lazy. Instead of coming back to this and deleting the white solid layer while I was working within this right here, this composition, the reveal anim, I took the linear color key and I just went, whoops, let's see. All I did was I dragged this onto our white path and I told it I want to key out the white. Boom, immediately have what I need. It's looking really good. Alright, so back to the main project. Alright, so we have that effect done. Now at this point I threw that into my main composition layer, and all I did was I added a rotation effect. Pretty easy. Where I wanted it to stop rotating, I created a key at 0 rotation because that's where I want it to end. And then at the beginning here, where it first starts to reveal itself, I went ahead and rotated it. I kind of just winged this. All I did was I rotated it some, I went to see how it looked, messed with it some more until I had what I wanted. Now one thing that I do want to mention is I wanted this thing to rotate in at a constant speed and then slow to a stop at the end, which is why I only have this easy ease effect on the ending frame, or the ending keyframe that I have here. There we go. Rotates in, looks really good. Now let's talk about the core here, or the nucleus. Now this is pretty straightforward. Once I had the effect with these rings coming in, or the electron paths, I was trying to decide how I wanted this nucleus to come into existence. I decided I would just have it pop in. Now I have a rotation effect on this, and I used the same method that I did for these guys. I do have it as a slow in as well, but that's okay. I thought it looked better that way with the way it's scaled as well. And for the scaling, same thing. 64 I knew from the beginning was the scale that I needed for this thing to sit in here the way that I wanted it. So I keyframed that. Then I went back to the beginning and keyframed it at 0 for the scale. Once I had that, I wanted this scale up a little bit past our ending value here. Now this, originally I wanted this to scale much bigger so that it went whoa and then scaled back down and then kind of rested into place. But I didn't like how this looked, layering and covering up these electron paths. And even if I move this, come on buddy, go down. There we go. Even if I put this under, I didn't really like how that looked. So ultimately I decided to just have it scale up to 65, which is only 1% larger than our ending scale, but that's okay. I think it still ended up looking pretty good. I have it then scaled down to 39 and then back to 64. I easy eased all of these because I wanted it to have a slow in and slow out for every single keyframe. And then I just kind of moved these two inside keys around until I thought the speed looked pretty nice. There we go. Pretty straightforward. Looking good. Now at this point, I'm almost done. I just have to add these electrons circling around, and that was fairly simple. We're going to take a look at this right here. This actually is not supposed to be here right now, this guy right here. But it is good that he's here right now because I can show you how I did this. So all I did was I created, let's go to keyframe 1. All I did was, I do not want to be in graph mode. Okay. All I did here was I brought this path in here just so I could see what I was doing. And all I did was I created a shape layer, a little circle, and I keyframed it once at this end. I went to the frame roughly around how long I wanted it to take to do a half rotation, and I keyframed it at this end. And then I added a keyframe right in the middle. Now from here, originally this thing was going like through here, and then it was going through here. It wasn't really following the path. So what I did was I grabbed all of my keyframes. Oh yeah, I've got these separate. So I took all my keyframes, I went to the graph editor, and I just messed with these curves a little bit until I could get this thing to move where I wanted it. Now you could add more keyframes in here, but I have, let's see, let me exit this. I have these as easy ease keys, which just means that they each have a slow in and slow out. So if you start adding a bunch of keys in here and every single one has an easy in, easy out, it starts moving weird, it changes speed. I think it's easier to just create as little keys as possible and use the curves within the graph editor to get the effect that you want, if it's possible, with just the curves. Pretty easy. Now I did this only halfway because I figured, well, this thing's going to move perfectly both sides, and instead of trying to match it up perfectly, I just create half of the rotation of this thing and then mirror it really quickly. So with this effect that we have here, I created a new layer, or keep saying layer, I mean composition. Created a new composition, Electron Anim 2. Now really all I did was I took this composition, put it within this new composition, and I duplicated it once and offset it so that the next one started right as this first guy ends. There we go. And for this, I just scaled it to -100 so that it would be perfectly mirrored. I could have rotated it 180 degrees as well, and that would have worked. I can show you that real quick. 180. Uh-oh. There we go. There we go. Still mirrored perfectly. So I can do it either way. The idea is that I created half of this thing and then mirrored it. Now I want to go back into this real quick, and I want to take this guy because I don't want him to be seen right now. Once I had a full rotation here, I could have just added a loop effect, but instead I just grabbed both, duplicated it, and offset it every time. I just repeated this over and over again. Now this is way more loops than I have so many. This is way more than I really needed because I knew this animation was only going to be a few seconds at most. But I just wanted to have plenty. Okay. So here I've just got this thing looping over and over again the same way. So at this point we had the core made and coming in the way we wanted it. We have this effect on the electron paths, and all I had to do was I had to add these electron animation layers back in. Compositions, I mean. Now, all I did was I brought this first one in. I kind of scrolled through the time slider roughly to where I wanted this thing to come into existence. And I went ahead and created a keyframe for an opacity of 0 and then add 102 frames later. There we go, it's popping in right there. Now really this thing was going the whole time, right, but we just couldn't see it because all of this is 0 opacity over here. Now if I felt that I needed to, I could have moved these, or I could have offset this where I needed to so that this electron started at a different point of this path, but I decided that it was fine right there. So, oh, and one more thing that I want to mention is I wanted the first electron to start on this middle electron path. I thought it would look the best, so I just, as soon as I brought this in, I rotated it to -60 degrees because I knew that is the angle that we needed. All right. Once I had that coming in the way that I wanted it and it was looping perfectly, all I did was I duplicated the entire composition right there to here, and all I did was I just offset this entire thing. It was here, I moved it to here, or right there I mean. And then I did that once more, made sure each of these that I was duplicating was rotated to where they needed to be to match these paths, and that's it. We've got a perfect loop for these. The client wanted an intro animation for each of these logos, and then I've been giving them animation loops. So I'll send them a video up to about this point, something like this, and then I'll send them another video that's just a loop, where it'll be looped from here to, what is this loop going to be at? Let's take a look at that. Okay. To here. Now, when you're doing a loop, you want to offset it by 1 frame, right? So I would want it to be right here. So it would loop from here to 1 frame off, so that when it loops back, it starts here again. Very nice. Now, something I am noticing right now is each of these, I don't like how that looks. It's a little too far off of this path. Now, it might not be easily noticeable, but I'm going to go back and fix it real quick, and this will give you a good chance as well to see how I messed with this graph editor to get the effect that I wanted for these electrons. So let's go back to the original layer here. I'm going to go ahead and bring this guy back in and scale him down back to 80. And take a look at this thing. Where is this? Here, right here. Okay. So I'm going to take all my keyframes, select them, go to the graph, and I think it's going to be my X that needs to be affected. Let's see. There we go. Bring that down just a little bit so that when it comes in here, it really sticks to the path. Now, I might want to move it at this point up just a little bit, so I can try, let's see. Oh. Now, does that bring it out too much beforehand? No, that looks pretty good. That's exactly what I want. Let's make sure this is still good over here. Good enough, I think. Now I've got everything built off of each other, so I should be able to go back to the main layer and it is already fixed. Very nice, that looks better. These are definitely following the path better now. Looks very good. And that's it, that's the entire effect. So now that you know how I did it, it's actually fairly simple. I hope that you guys can take these concepts and these tools and create some of your own cool stuff. I don't want you to just memorize how I did this, but look at what tools I used and what approaches I used and create some of your own cool stuff. So go ahead and post in the comments if you guys create anything cool and want to share, or if you have critiques of my work. I also appreciate that. Have a good day.